I feel like I have failed you all, and I want to tell you why. So, many of you may not know this, but I am an occupational therapist by training. I have been an OT for nearly 20 years, if you count my schooling, more than that. And I'm also a mom, which is maybe why you're here. I have a 9, 6, and 3-year-old. And I feel like I've been letting you down because I have all of this incredible training and experience as an occupational therapist working across many different populations. I've spent a lot of my time in orthopedics, in hand therapy, but I've also worked in pediatrics. I've worked in the community. More recently, I've done a lot of mom coaching of moms, and I love that. And if that is something you ever want to talk to me about or explore more, I'm all ears. Let me know. I have an email address in the comments down below. You can look me up and send me an email. And I feel like I need to marry these two big life experiences together better. You know, being a mom and the experience that I have gained, often the hard way through that. Being a mom where I don't have a lot of family support, like physically. So my husband and I have really had to work together to create this family that we have. And so a lot of it has rested on me, and for better or worse, hopefully for better, to help me grow as a person. I think there are so many lessons in that. And that's also a topic I want to talk about at some point, is just, you know, when you are parenting by yourself, like what is this actually teaching you? How can you grow as a person as well? And then combining that with my OT training, where we are really taught how to analyze somebody in basically any situation that they find their life in. We are taught to think about someone as having inherent talents, skills, wisdom, and also having inherent challenges, things that they just aren't as good at as Bob over here. And then the environment. How can someone's environment hinder you or help you? So it's really important that I bring these two together, give some credit to OT for shaping me into the person that I am today. I'm not working in a traditional setting right now. Maybe that'll change, but I've done it for a long time. But what I do really love to do is coach moms, talk about these topics, support moms. I don't think there's enough support for moms easily available for people. And I think we underestimate how powerful having someone listen and dedicate their time, expertise, focus on your situation, how invaluable that is. I think coaching can be different from therapy. I think both can work simultaneously. But I have found coaching personally, I've been a recipient of coaching and I have coached, and I found both processes incredibly rewarding. And I like to think that I'm able to help the people that I coach and that they are better for it after they go through a process with me. So that's a side note, but it's something that I think as an occupational therapist, we're uniquely positioned to be able to analyze someone's situation holistically and provide them with the best advice for them, and also lead them to recognize things within themselves that maybe they hadn't thought about before. All that to say, today, I wanted to blend both my OT background and my experience as a mom with regards to the topic of boundaries. And every so often, I need a little refresher on why a boundary is important. What is a boundary? And, you know, oh, Julie, this is a little notice that it's slipping. Your boundaries are slipping. So I have a few examples that I want to share with you. But let's just start off with, what is a boundary? What do people think of typically when they hear the word boundary? And why you need them. So what is a boundary? To me, a boundary is a guidebook. It's a rule. It's structure. It is not a bad thing. In fact, I think it's an incredible thing. I think we grow up thinking boundaries are bad. We're always trying to butt up against them, especially those rebellious teenagers inside of us. And we feel as if boundaries are stifling and inhibiting our free spirit, our free will, flexibility, all of the things. And I think as a parent, once you have little kids, you will realize, And maybe you don't recognize initially, but once you come to the conclusion that boundaries are something that you absolutely need, you will see how not having them makes your life chaos and makes your children's lives chaos, because they do need some type of structure. So something that I read in a book a long time ago, a parenting book, I wouldn't even be able to tell you where I found this or where I heard this, but is the concept that parents, and I'm going to talk about moms specifically because I do really feel like a mom is the CEO of the family, typically, at least the ones I encounter. She's the boss. And your children need to feel like you're the boss in a kind and gentle and firm way. They test the boundaries of you as a leader. And the analogy that I like is you're the captain of a ship. So you're the CEO of the ship, you're the captain of the ship. And all your subordinates, or the crew in this case, they like to test how strong you are and how resilient you are and how calm you can be in a crisis. Because should that ship become shipwrecked, or there's a big storm, or there's uncertainty, or you run out of food, or whatever happens on a ship, pirates, they need to know that you've got this so that they can sleep at night. And the same is happening for your little kids. When they feel insecure because the leadership team or the leader, however that looks like for your family, is not showing them solidarity and strength and is freaking out, it creates problems in the family. And if you have little kids, like I have a little 3-year-old, if you have sort of even 3 and younger, you will see that in their behavior a little bit. This is why people talk about when there's big life changes, a new baby, or you move, or I don't know, you start school or divorce or something happens, they quote unquote misbehave because they don't feel settled. They don't feel safe. Something has been rocked. And so there are certain things in life you absolutely cannot control, and you're not going to be able to control everything in their lives. And, that's what it is to be a human being, and they need to be able to deal with adversity as well. But there are certain things you can control. So I want to just lead you through a very simple example. You're going to laugh at me. That's okay. I encourage it because it's dumb, but it's important to show you what I mean about boundaries. So my 3-year-old is obsessed with snacks, as I would garner many 3-year-olds are, toddlers. And we have this rule now that granola bars or packaged snacks, it doesn't have to be a granola bar, but it's stereotypically some kind of bar, like nut-free, sugar-free, everything-free, not even that nice bar that I could send to school if I needed to, or that are easy. I actually have them to send to sports practice when I have to provide snacks. You have to make sure everything is allergen friendly. Anyway, so we have a bunch of these, and she's obsessed because they're packaged. I think that's part of the reason. They're packaged and they're purple and they're cute and she likes them. And she doesn't want to eat any regular food, any normal food. And, I think maybe it would be different if food wasn't her thing. Like if she was eating all colors of the rainbow, she wasn't allergic to green, if she would eat dinner and not just plain spaghetti without a big fight. And I'm not going to force feed her. So, if she won't eat what I've made, there's nothing I can do about that. She can have yogurt or banana or something. That's always my default. But the point is, if she eats snacks, she's not hungry enough to try something new. And if you have a toddler, you know that they like what they like and they don't want to try new things. That is not a hallmark of a healthy, adjusted toddler. They question everything and they like what they like and they like what is familiar to them. And they love snacks. Also a rule of law. So I decided that because she's going crazy with these snacks, I have to now buy more. They're not super unhealthy. They're not the healthiest, but they're not super unhealthy. But they're expensive to replace all the time. And she just doesn't need them. I don't want her to have them. That's the main thing. I just don't think it is necessary. And if they didn't exist, she would probably eat other things in our house, which I would prefer her to eat. Plus, no one else is eating all these bars, like just willy-nilly. And if they are, I'm telling them not to. And they respect my no a little bit better than the 3-year-old. The 3-year-old couldn't care less. So I made this rule that these snacks are outside snacks. And cheeky little thing took one outside onto the porch and said, "Can I eat it now? I'm outside." I mean, I almost let her have it then because I just thought, wow, that's pretty insightful. But that's not what I mean by an outside snack. These are snacks that we're going to take in the car if we have swimming or we have tennis or something and we need something to eat, or we're doing some kind of family activity outside and we need to just bring a few snacks, and for when we contribute to sports and we need to bring snacks for the whole team. AKA, you can't eat all of these because then I won't realize that we don't have enough, or now I have to go buy more when I wasn't planning on it. So we put in this boundary, and I need to tell you that she was not happy about it. And so I guess the whole point of the story is that if there are things in your life that you want to implement in your family or don't want to have in your family, so for example, you want bedtime to be at a certain time, or you don't want your child eating 500 lollipops, or or you don't want them watching more than one episode of X or whatever it is, you need to say no. They are going to have a blowout. They're going to resist and oppose normally. That's like a normal reaction, especially a young child. That's how they express themselves, by having a tantrum. And it'll be okay. It is incredible how when you are firm in your no and you really believe what you're saying, that they will respect you differently. I feel like there's a process. So the first time that you say no, they're going to like go mad and go crazy and scream and shout, and you're going to want to give up, and you're going to feel terrible inside, and you're going to think you've made, you're a terrible person, made a big mistake. This is never going to work. Boundaries never going to happen. But then something magical happens when a child feels confident in your decision. I can feel your confidence emanating, just like that captain of the ship. Like, this means this, no means no. Something changes, and they respect your leadership. And it's happened to me time and time again, where I will institute a boundary. It will feel awful. I will feel like the world's worst mother. I'm no fun. I'm on the no fun bus. My poor children, never been to McDonald's. Oh my gosh, they're abused. They're neglected. And I will feel like I'm doing a terrible job. And then something shifts and we get through that hard time and we move on. And we don't have the conversation again. Now, there will be more things that she will fight me on and push back on, for sure. But I will have resolved that issue that was important to me and important for our family. And the other thing about this is that being good at setting boundaries, it's a skill that many of us do not learn in childhood, especially if our parents say yes to everything because it's easier. I 100% believe that. It is much harder to implement a boundary and stick with it and be consistent than it is to let them do whatever they want. But the problem is it comes to bite you in the bum every single time. Whether that's no one wants to play with your child because they're like a spoiled brat, or they don't get invited to other people's homes, or you don't want to hang out with friends who have kids that aren't disciplined and don't listen. You can't take them to restaurants or church, or they misbehave in school. It ricochets into so many things. So you're not doing them any favors by giving in to their every whim. I mean, you don't do whatever you want all the time. So why should they? And how do you learn that if you don't learn that at home? And this is not about being a dragon. Well, sometimes I feel like a dragon mother compared, but it's not about being a dragon. It's just about being kind and firm in your boundaries and knowing what is important for you and your family. And I also firmly believe that how you do one thing is how you do everything. This is also one of these universal truths that I think is spot on. When you say no to the outside snack inside, and you mean it, and you're consistent, and you do not waver on this, it means that you're able to say no, or you're able to institute a boundary in other areas. We don't watch television before bed, or bedtime is this time, or we have family day on Sundays. We don't go out on Friday nights, or we do, or we have family movie night every Friday, or it doesn't matter what it is. It's unique to your family and circumstances. But it allows you the skills and practice for the bigger things. Because what happens when your child's like, I want to go and stay over at this friend's house, and you don't have a good feeling about it? Or I want to go on this trip, and you're like, I think you're too young for that. Or there's some bigger boundary that you need to institute that you're unable to because you weren't practicing the smaller boundaries, the ones with less perhaps consequences, when you had the opportunity to. Think of boundaries as a skill that you need to cultivate. And so I really encourage you, if you're going through something now in your family where you want to change the vibe of the house, you want to take back control because you feel like you're getting completely just bamboozled by your toddler, pick something that you know is the right move for your family and practice instituting it, because children are great at giving you opportunities to practice. They will 100% be there to test your boundaries all the time. They can show up for that 100%. I guarantee you that. And if you're not sure, sometimes this happens to me where I'm navigating new territory as my children get older and I don't know what I think yet. I haven't decided. Most of the time, you can mess up and reflect and it's not going to have dire consequences. Like, for example, do I let my son watch YouTube videos without me there, unattended, right? And at face value, I don't think that feels right. And then on the flip side, I do want some level of autonomy for him because I want to be able to trust him. I don't want him to now go down a dark rabbit hole because he's trying to be rebellious. And obviously there's things you can do, restrictions you can put on to help his safety kind of thing. But I don't know when I would allow him to watch YouTube for kids or whatever, or what topics I think are appropriate, or how long he watches for. Like, these are all things that I have to figure out, and I have to find my own sense of comfort level with it. And so I'm probably not going to get it right. Maybe I'm going to let him watch too much. Maybe I'm going to give him too much freedom and not realize that even though he's typing in how to serve a tennis ball, very innocent, and YouTube can be very helpful with a lot of things, the next video that's coming up, there's no way I can predict what that would be. And so I have to do research just to figure out how to restrict certain things and just keep him safe and, maintain that boundary. Hopefully, I am given a little bit of grace where, if he watches an hour of how to serve a tennis ball, it's not the end of the world, even if we come to the conclusion that that is too long, for him to be watching YouTube at one time. Probably not the best example, but you get what I mean. Like, there are ways for us as parents. Remember, we are still learning, and with each new phase of our child, especially if this is the first time you've ever gone through it, you are learning too. And, I think communicating that you are putting in a boundary for safety, that you are learning how it works as well, and teaching your child your thought process or letting them into your thought process is also really powerful. Now, I don't know how many of you have little kids versus older kids. Leave it in the comments. That would be really helpful for me to know how best I can serve you. So obviously, like my 3-year-old, if I start telling her that I'm practicing my boundaries with her, she's going to look at me like I'm a Looney Tune. My 9-year-old will be able to understand much better what a boundary is and why it's important and why we use it for our family. So, pick your audience, choose, read the room correctly and figure out what is best for you. But I just really wanted to encourage you, if there are boundaries that you want to set, to not give up. It is right on the other side of that discomfort that you will reap the rewards of having a strong boundary. And the more you do it, the easier it will become, the less scary it will become. And no one's going to die from a good boundary. No one's going to die. And your child is going to get through it. Even if they're kicking and screaming, they're going to get through it, and they're going to be better for it. And they're going to be more pleasant to be around. You're going to be more likely to be more flexible in other areas, or just have more bandwidth as a parent to do more fun things with them. Because when you don't have boundaries and you just feel like you're drowning and you have no control over your schedule, over how your children behave, over your life, everything suffers in that instance. And there's nothing worse than feeling that desperate. I think we can all relate to that, where you just give up, you don't feel supported and you don't feel in control of your life. And that's when parenting is really hard and really miserable for a lot of people. So if you institute boundaries, you examine how they can really help you and where you may not be You can examine how your environment also might be hindering. You know, I spoke about this in the beginning. As an occupational therapist, we often look at the environment as a hindrance or a helper. And for example, I'll give you my example with my bars and granola bar example. So my husband did not get the memo that these granola bars are outside snacks. So he was just giving them to my kids willy-nilly because he didn't know. I didn't know that he didn't know, and they're certainly not going to tell him. And it was a hindrance to me because now we're communicating very incongruent messages where, you know, the 3-year-old especially is like, great, I'm just going to ask daddy for a granola bar because he'll give it to me even if mommy won't, or, you know, and then we're using them all up and I'm supposed to be keeping them for soccer or for a sports activity. And now I don't have any more because he's giving them to them for lunch and he's giving them to them for this and that, because that's you kind of, you know, like, oh, there's snacks in the cupboard and they want a snack or they need a snack and here you go. I mean, it's a totally innocent mistake, but this is how the environment is hindering my goal of making these outside snacks. These are not something we just eat like apples in the fridge, you know? So you need to look and examine how your environment can help you. And I mean, maybe what I could have done, in retrospect, I should have done this, is put them in a bag and have them like sealed off where no one can find them. And then they're ready for soccer or for basketball whenever I need them. And no one's going to eat them and they're going to be ready to go. And I don't have to be policing them. And that's how the environment would be helping me. If they're out of sight, no one's going to ask for them, or they're going to ask for them a lot less. So they're just some examples. But anyway, so I hope that this has been helpful in terms of empowering you to feel like you can set boundaries and it's not going to end the world. It's going to be a good thing, a great thing. I would love to hear how boundaries may have transformed your life, or what kind of boundary you need to set or feel like you need to set. And let me know if there's any other topics you would like me to talk about. And I can't wait to see you in my next video. Bye.